So if you're buying your first home in Jacksonville, you've probably heard the usual advice. But what about the questions that no one ever talks about? That's what we're going to cover today. Number one, inspections. Are they a pass or fail? The easy answer is no, they are not. They are not like, for example, a regular home inspection compared to what's called a wood destroying organism inspection, also known as WDO. That one is about wood rot, termites, ants, carpenter ants, tearing up the wood on your house. Home inspection covers everything. Now, the WDO actually kind of does have a pass or fail because if you have a mortgage, the mortgage company is going to require a clean WDO. That means everything listed on that has to be done and repaired in order for them to proceed and give you a loan. So that is kind of a pass or fail. But a home inspection is not a pass or fail because really a home inspection is for your peace of mind so that you know that you bought a house that wasn't going to fall apart the next day after closing, which that is another thing to talk about. Sometimes things do not show up on the home inspection report. But then after you close, a couple weeks later, your air compressor breaks on your AC and you got to spend like $1,500 on that. And that was a true story for me. That happened. But the inspection report, it didn't mention that because sometimes you just don't know when things are going to go bad. And it wasn't a really old unit. So it is a peace of mind. So it goes over like plumbing, electrical, roofing, the appliances that are staying with your house, windows. I mean, it even covers caulking, like if you're missing caulking, which you don't think is important, but it is important because water intrusion on the outside can get in and it can do lots of bad things to wood rot, or even if it gets in and puddles up. So caulking is very important. But it is not a thing where, hey, it's failed, so I got to back out, or hey, it did pass, or whatever. Passing would mean that everything on the inspection report was fixed, and that is not realistic. So you just have to take it as not a pass or fail, but can I live with this? When I buy this house and I move in, can I live with the issues if the seller doesn't fix them? Is this a deal breaker? Does it scare me? And we can talk about all of that once we get the inspection, because sometimes things sound worse than what they are. So, no, not a pass or a fail. All right, this one scares me. It is about wire fraud. And this is why it scares me, is because let's say we're working on our closing process and we're communicating back and forth to the title company. They usually want a wire to be done for your binder that you present when you first get under contract. And they want that to go from your bank to their bank via wire. Okay, sounds good. But there's hackers who have hacked emails of title companies, real estate agents, buyers, sellers, and they send you an email that looks very official, looks like it's from that title company that's handling closing. And they say, hey, this is the instructions, you send it, and boom, it's gone. Now, a binder is usually, it depends on the contract, but let's just go for 1% of the purchase price just to make it easy. So that's not quite as big, but I just read a story where a buyer sent in like hundreds and thousands of dollars to what they thought was the title company, but it was not. It was to a hacker. Now the hacker takes the money. Sometimes, this is not always the case, sometimes you have enough time to go back and notify the title company, but more importantly, notify your bank and stop that transfer. And then you always, if that happens, and hopefully it will never happen to you, get the FBI involved. But the time frame is very small. It's a short window because those wires go through pretty quick. And once they go and they're in that account, they're out of your account into this hacker's account. And some people have not been able to close because they've lost hundreds of thousands of their savings. That, that just guts me. So there are things to do. Okay, so I am big on the buyer communicating directly to the title company. Now, that means I can get you the wire instructions. Sometimes they're in writing. Sometimes the title companies have special programs that you have to actually sign for. There's encrypted information, but you should always, you get that wire instruction, you pick up the phone to the title company, which is the company that's handling your closing, and you say, hey, did you send me those wire instructions? And they're going to check, and if they say yes, you're good to go. You got to confirm it. Make sure you check the numbers. If they say no, do not send it. And that's every time. That's whether it's for a binder or it's for your money that you're getting ready to close with, because I never want that to happen to you. That would be devastating, to lose all that money that you've spent so much time saving to buy a house, and then you're without the money and without the house. Okay, number 3, prior issues that the house had, but the homeowner fixed. Should you be worried? Let me throw out a few. Roof issues. Okay, if the roof leaked and the homeowner repaired and replaced the roof, and that means replacing the wood underneath that was rotten, anything like that, replacing the shingles, doing it via permit, somebody who is licensed and insured, has a warranty. Yeah, you should not have any issue with that. Now, does that mean you'll never have issues? I mean, sometimes things happen and they're not done correctly, but you shouldn't be worried about a roof. One thing that came up where I got this question from was foundation issues. And I had a listing that had foundation issues. They had the moisture, it was off grade, which means the house sits up. It's not a concrete foundation. There's a crawl space to get in. So water gets in and it goes in and it can come up and it can cause issues with any wood. Not every time, sometimes. So they had a company that came out and specialized in fixing that. So they put moisture barriers, and I don't know all the technical terms for it, but they fixed it. Now, we disclosed it. In the seller's disclosure, it was disclosed. And I even talked to the other agent. I make sure we always disclose stuff. Should a buyer be worried? No. I mean, could things happen? Again, anything could happen with any product, anything that's been repaired. But no, you shouldn't worry about it. If it's been fixed, then you should be good to go. That's why inspections are important. And that's why it's important that sellers disclose these items too, even if they're fixed, just so the buyer has that peace of mind too. Now, you may be wondering, how confusing is the process on buying a home? Well, I have a free guide that I'm going to give you the link to it in the description box below. And also, I'm going to pin it to the first comment. It's a buyer guide that talks about the whole process from start to finish, so that you have a clear picture of what's going on. Question number 4. What does it mean when the seller asks for highest and best offer? Okay, so I recorded this September 2025. We are leaning into a balanced market. Most houses are not seeing multiple offers anymore. So this would be a market of a seller's market where houses are just flying off the shelves, or, there's lots of buyers, not enough inventory, so lots of interest. And let's say the seller says, hey, we've had multiple offers. We are asking for your highest and best offer. That means you write your best offer that you would be comfortable with, that at the end of the day, if you got it, you could live with that offer. And hopefully at the end of the day, it'll get you that house. So if it's in this market, chances are, you probably won't have a highest and best type scenario. you may be the only offer. And then it goes to the old-fashioned way of negotiating back and forth and hopefully coming up with an agreement quickly to get the process started. But if you see highest and best, that means you give your best if you really, really want the house. And give your best what you can live with. What you can live with if you win it, what you can live with if you lose out on it. So always do that. And if it's a market where it's a crazy seller's market, maybe you want to go ahead and give your highest and best from the get-go and try to get that offer as fast as you can. All right, this last question is, what are some odd things to look for? And I really like this question. I found it on Reddit. That's a great place to go and get information. But this poster was asking, not your normal, everyday, schools, things like that. What are some odd things that you look for? So some of them were talking about where the house fits or sits compared to where the sun rises or sets. Okay, that's one thing people don't think about. Another thing, and this was my own thing when I'm looking for a house, although I love dogs, okay, so no hate mail when you hear this. I absolutely love dogs. I've had dogs. We had a dog 2 years ago that had to, cross the Rainbow Bridge. So I just don't want to be in a house where you go outside and all you hear is a dog barking or for long periods of time. Sometimes some dogs bark. I have neighbors a couple houses down that they let their dogs out. They bark a little bit, they do their business, and they come back in. But they don't have them sitting out there barking over and over again. And I have lived in a house where the neighbor behind me had her dogs barking constantly, all the time, and sometimes for hours because they left them outside. I don't like that. The other thing I don't like is one house I really loved. They had a barking dog, but then I come out front and this little chihuahua comes running at me very fiercely, like she owned that house too, and is barking at me. And I didn't like that either. No, again, not because I don't like dogs or ankle biters. I think they're cute. I just don't want to go outside and have this dog coming into my yard all the time. And also, if the owner is allowing their dog to run free in the front yard, what else are they going to allow? So that's kind of my thinking too. Others talked about how they looked at trees, and not just for their beauty, but for the fact that if a tree is hanging over the house, is that tree still pretty young and in good shape? Or is that tree going to come over during a storm and hit the house, which will cause a lot of issues too? Some insurance companies will require that any branches over the house have to be cut down, so it reduces the chances of it falling on the house. Another person mentioned trees that are hanging over from your neighbor's yard into your yard. Are there a lot of those? Because that could be a problem too if there's a lot. And what happens if their tree falls and you have those branches? Some people don't want to deal with that kind of drama. Others looked at the foundation to see if there was any eroding. Is the foundation, here's the house, here's your foundation, here's your land. You want it to run off so it's not going into your house. People looked at that, which is really wise. Another thing, and here's another thing I looked at too. I am very visual. So every house that I've bought, I look at my neighbors' houses to see what kind of upkeep, what's their grass look like. Do they have, and for me personally, I don't care if somebody has an RV in their front yard. That doesn't bother me. But if their grass isn't edged and it's running over the side, or they hardly mow, that kind of stuff bothers me, and I won't buy a house next to somebody like that. Now, what you're saying or thinking is that I better keep my yard up, and I do. I make sure of that because, again, I'm a very visual person. So we just went over the uncommon questions, but there are some common mistakes that first-time buyers make that can cost you big. Check out my next video that talks about those common mistakes and what you can do to avoid them.